Hi, I'm Sue Chang, Director of the Food Program at the Center for Environmental Health. After more than 25 years of working in the toxics field and 15 years at CEH, I'm so proud to have launched the GreenScreen Certified Standard for food service ware together with Clean Production Action last week. The Center for Environmental Health is a nonprofit that is dedicated to protecting people from toxic chemicals using science, policy, litigation, and purchasing power to create real, tangible wins for public health. Next slide. On today's webinar, I will give some brief background about concerns with single-use food service ware and what led CEH and CPA to co-develop this standard. Then we'll hear from the panelists, starting with Sherry Franjevic, the GreenScreen Program Manager at Clean Production Action, who will provide a high-level overview of the GreenScreen certification and generally how it works. Next, we'll hear from two manufacturers who are the first to achieve GreenScreen certification in different categories about the value they see in certifications and their interest in GreenScreen Certified in particular. And I just want to be clear that these are two different companies with unrelated products. David Friedland is the sustainability maven at Eco Products, which is the first manufacturer to earn the GreenScreen Certified Silver designation for a food service ware product line. Nicole Whiteman is the industry manager for food service ware at Natureworks, which is the first company to achieve GreenScreen Certified Platinum level for a food service ware material. The panel will be rounded out with two speakers from Advocate Aurora Health, Monica Nikelski, the Director of Sustainability, and then Kathleen Kapp, the Director of Strategic Sourcing, who will talk about the value they see in certifications like GreenScreen Certified from a purchaser's perspective. We'll close out the webinar with time for questions and answers during the last 15 minutes. Next slide. If you have questions for the panelists, please type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom control panel at any time. The recording of today's webinar and the presentation slides will be available on both CEH and CPA's websites in the next few days. Next slide. Most people tend to assume that if a product is for sale on the market, that it's safe. This assumption is probably even more common for products that come into contact with our food, such as food packaging and food service ware. Roughly 12,000 chemicals are used in the production of food contact materials globally. Many of these chemicals are used in single-use foodware to provide flexibility, add colors as fillers, and to protect against heat or sunlight, for example. Some of these chemicals can unfortunately cause harm like cancer, birth defects, and impaired fertility. Next slide. With single-use foodware, one well-known example of a problematic product from both a waste and toxics perspective is expanded polystyrene foam, often referred to as Styrofoam. Styrene is the main building block of these common foodware items and is reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. It has also been shown to leach from the foodware into food or drinks. As concerns about polystyrene and petroleum-based single-use products have increased, people have been turning to compostables as they are seen as an environmentally friendly alternative. However, if you don't yet have access to a commercial composting facility and one that will accept your product, then they won't break down the way that they're supposed to and could result in greenhouse gas emissions. One compostable product that has become more common recently are molded fiber products, those made of sugarcane, bagasse, wheat straw, or other plant-based fibers. Unfortunately, most of them have been made with PFAS chemicals to impart water and grease resistance to the foodware. Per and polyfluoroalkyl substances are a group of or class of over 9,000 chemicals. They have one of the strongest bonds in chemistry and unfortunately stick around for a very long time. All PFAS ingredients and products break down eventually to chemicals that never degrade. PFAS can harm health at low exposure levels, and some build up in our bodies. They're associated with a wide range of adverse health effects, such as cancer, thyroid disease, hormone disruption, and other serious health issues. Hazardous chemicals like PFAS should not be in these products in the first place. As we move to eliminate PFAS, we don't want regrettable substitutes and want to know that the ingredients that are being used in making these products are safe. Next slide, please. As we transition to a sustainable, reusable, circular economy, It's important to think of the life cycle of each of these products. Our ultimate goal is safer reusables, and where single-use products are used, we want them to be free of toxic chemicals. This is a start on that journey, helping to make the transition to a healthier and safer material economy. With that, I will turn it over to our first panelist, Sherry Franjevic of Clean Production Action. Thanks.
Thank you, Sue, and hello, everybody. Next slide. As Sue mentioned, I'm Sherry. I'm from Clean Production Action. We're a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to design and deliver strategic solutions in the areas of safer chemicals, materials, and products. And we use two primary strategies to fulfill our mission: tools and collaborations. And today I'll be focusing on the GreenScreen program, which falls into the tools category. Next. The GreenScreen program includes tools that simplify the complexity of chemical hazard to support informed, proactive, and precautionary decision-making. When I say simplified, what I mean is that we define and conduct robust, comprehensive assessments and then distill those results down to actionable scores that can be communicated across the supply chain and support informed choices. GreenScreen for Safer Chemicals was first published in 2007, expanding from the work of the US EPA's Design for the Environment program, now known as Safer Choice, and leveraging scientific and regulatory precedent. GreenScreen was created with advisors and experts from around the world, nonprofit, government, academia, business, members, and we have continuous improvement with peer review and the Science Advisory Committee. The value of GreenScreen is that it places chemicals along a continuum. So it takes all the toxicological information and says, okay, it gives it a number from 1 to 4, 1 being avoid, chemical of high concern, 4 being safer, and then steps in between that support decision-making. GreenScreen List Translator was developed a few years later, and it uses the GreenScreen Benchmark 1 criteria and then leverages scientific and regulatory lists to identify known chemicals of high concern. And the value is that it can and has been automated and is made publicly available. So you can quickly screen for one of the most comprehensive, over 2,000 chemicals and chemical classes that you can avoid. And GreenScreen Certified, which we launched about 10 years after GreenScreen, after a long time of being asked for this by the marketplace, gives that same decision-making support on a product level rather than an ingredient level and builds on that foundation. Next slide. GreenScreen is globally recognized and used. It's been used by government agencies, certification bodies, nonprofit organizations, and leading businesses. We've had the greatest adoption to date in the electronics, apparel, and building sectors, and we continue to expand. Next slide. So why GreenScreen Certified? Sue outlined some of the challenges with toxic chemicals in different product categories. And really, you know, as this whole movement in this industry sector is moving away from things like polyfluoroalkyl substances or PFAS, we really care about what people are moving towards, because the last thing we want is to jump out of the frying pan into the fire. So as an independent nonprofit organization, we're looking to create some external verification to support companies' first-party claims so that they can make some third-party claims about some hazardous chemicals that are not contained in their product and how they're moving towards safer products. Next slide. A key value of the certification program as well is that it creates a communication across the supply chain. So manufacturers who don't want to disclose the identity of the ingredients in their product, but want to somehow communicate about the overall hazard profile of their products, have a way to do that. And purchasers and users who may not want to get a PhD in toxicology and dive into all the studies have a simplified result of achievement for that product. Next slide. So the GreenScreen Certified standard for food service ware has 3 levels of achievement, starting with silver, gold, and platinum. And there's increasingly stringent requirements as you achieve the next level. Next slide. The certification standard is designed to certify both food serviceware items as well as materials used in food serviceware items. And as Sue mentioned, while we strongly support a transition towards more reusables with the reduce, reuse, recycle mantra, we also acknowledge that a large share of the market today is disposable items. And this is also a primary place where PFAS has been used. And we really care about acknowledging, supporting, and supporting that transition to safer chemistry in these disposables as well. Next slide. So this is sort of our phase 1 of the process. So just a little, I'm going to walk you through the elements of the certification standard. This is going to be very high level, but I'll walk you through each of these requirements one at a time and talk through them. Next slide. So the first piece is that the chemicals in the product, all the chemicals, have to be disclosed under confidentiality to a third party. So this includes all intentionally added chemicals that are present above 1 part per million in the material, and impurities or residuals above 100 parts per million in the material, which is quite protective. Next slide. We require that products are verified to be PFAS-free. So we require total fluorine testing, and we specify the test method in the laboratory to ensure that the results can be compared and consistent across different applicants. And the products must result in less than 100 parts per million total fluorine. We do have additional frequency and requirements if products are made on equipment that also produce PFAS containing products to ensure no cross-contamination. Next slide. As I mentioned, each of these ingredients has to be disclosed, and that's really the first step in evaluating them. So we do a comprehensive evaluation of 18 different hazard endpoints using the GreenScreen tools. For the silver level of certification, we use GreenScreen List Translator, and for gold and platinum, in addition to using List Translator, each of those ingredients also has a comprehensive GreenScreen assessment. For the gold level, no benchmark 1 chemicals can be contained in the product, and for the platinum level, no benchmark 1 or 2 chemicals can be contained in the product. Next slide. This is just a little bit about how we define benchmark 1 or chemical of high concern. This is consistent with authoritative scientific and regulatory precedent. So this would include chemicals that are CMRs, which is carcinogens or mutagens or reproductive or developmental toxicants, PBTs, which are persistent and bioaccumulative and toxic or some combination therein, and then chemicals of equivalent concern, the most well-known being endocrine disrupting chemicals. Next slide. In addition to the evaluation of each of the ingredients in the product using GreenScreen tools, just on the front end, we have some chemicals and chemical classes of concern that we're aware are in food contact materials that we want to avoid just from the start. And so we've used a series of different references to research those chemicals and prioritize chemicals and chemical classes that are on the restricted substances list, as you'll see here. Next slide. And just a note on, the value of using the chemical class approach. It's a really efficient and precautionary framework rooted in well-established toxicology methods, and it supports decision-making in particular in the absence of complete data. So if you know that there's a problematic chemical that has a really similar structure and probably really similar biological interaction to something that has lack of data, it's a really good idea to avoid until more data are available. So that's how we use those classes in the restricted substances list. Next slide. We also require analytical testing to verify the absence of a subset of the chemicals on the restricted substances list. These are ones that are known to be found in food serviceware and food contact materials, are particularly problematic or of concern, and or are of concern at very low levels. And so we want to be detecting them at those much lower levels. So these are the chemicals, and you'll see that the requirements increase for gold and platinum as well. Next slide. And for those who go through this very rigorous process and meet all of these requirements, all of the products are listed both on the Clean Production Action and the Center for Environmental Health's website. And this is a place where you can verify that a claim is actually a true claim. And also a place where you can find certified products. Next slide. And in terms of certification, we do have some steps to certification on both websites, and it's 5 pretty simple steps. So you can contact us and we're happy to get started on certifying additional products. Next slide. And I did want to acknowledge that this certification standard also was developed in consultation with experts from nonprofit organizations, purchasers, manufacturers, academia, experts in the field, and really grateful for all the support. And you know, these folks, in addition, we had companies that supported us by piloting the standard to help us figure out what the right criteria were. So thank you for all of the support of our peer reviewers. Next slide. And this is contact information. And I will turn it over to the next speaker.
Thanks so much, Sherry. So first of all, I want to say so excited to be able to talk to you about this. This is something that we at EcoProducts have been working on for a very long time. Our Vanguard line, which I'll share with you in just a moment, and so happy to be working together with CPA and CEH on this. They're really doing great work. So thank you all for the invitation and for all the hard work that's gone into this. I know it's been a long haul, so thanks everybody. We feel free to go to the next slide, please. So my name is David Friedland. I'm the sustainability maven at EcoProducts. We're a compostable food service packaging manufacturer. And you know, I shared this slide with you just to give you a little taste of who we are and how we think about the world. You know, we really feel like we're a company that is a zero waste focused company first that happens to operate in compostables, not the other way around. We think that's a really important difference. And especially in this pursuit, I think that, you know, really shows itself in terms of our focus on bringing a product to market that, you know, can really help the composters be assured of the quality of their finished compost while still diverting the food scraps that we know is important to get out of the landfill, especially with the focus on methane recently at COP. You know, we're involved throughout the industry on lots of different things, serve on the board of BPI, our VP of product development serves on the board of BPI. We're also involved in, you know, the Compost Manufacturers Alliance, Sustainable Packaging Coalition, really all across the board, you know, the industry groups that are focused on these issues. You know, we are right there trying to support them and do whatever we can. So we can go to the next slide. I just wanted to share you a brief history of us to show kind of how this product, you know, fits into kind of what we've been doing. So, you know, we originally started in 1990 with just a father-son pair working on trying to get, you know, environmentally preferable products of any kind. And we've since developed into, you know, really, you know, I think the leading, you know, compostables company out there, especially in the United States. And so we try to lead, right? We want to be the leader in this space. And our Vanguard line, which is GreenScreen Silver certified, is just another example of that kind of that, you know, innovation and that pursuit to be that leader. Next slide, please. So without further ado, here's Vanguard. is our molded fiber, sugarcane fiber, bagasse product that was designed, without PFAS. And that was the original intention here, right? Was, hey, we want to respond to the market and respond to these concerns and develop a product that does not have PFAS in it, is able to get the new BPI certification, which adjusted, the standards a few years ago now to say, less than 100 parts per million of total fluorine content, thus indicating no PFAS intentionally added. But we didn't want to stop there, right? We wanted to have something that could show and prove to the market that this truly is PFAS-free, of course, but also doesn't have regrettable substitutes, which is where the GreenScreen Certified program comes in. So we've been, working on this line since, the last 4 or 5 years at this point, really, and have been able to go through various steps to say, okay, let's vet the chemistry, and let's, actually have something to the market that we can say. So we're, really happy that the GreenScreen certification has come to pass to allow us to do that. This is a product you've probably seen out there in terms of, lots of molded fiber. This is basically the same product, just with a substitute chemistry, package of chemistries to give it grease and water resistance. So we were able to work within our existing supply chain to, first of all, identify, a substitute that we could use, and implement that within our existing suppliers and our existing supply chain to try to make it kind of an easy transition here over to Vanguard. So it's been trying to complete that transition and make things happen, and we're excited about the GreenScreen discussion so that this will continue to gain steam and more folks in the market will start to choose the Vanguard product over legacy sugarcane products that are still certainly out there in the market across the industry. So we need to, continue to have those conversations, especially for our composter partners, and help them feel confident in the material that's coming to them, so they can feel confident in the material that they're sending out the back door. Next slide, please. So I know Sherry talked a lot about this, and so she's the expert here, so I won't go too far into regrettable substitutes, but this was really, a driving factor for us, right? To say, okay, it's different than what we had before. It doesn't have PFAS, but what is it, right? Is it a step forward? Is it a step backward or step to the side, right? These are all questions that we've gotten and we hear, right? So this was one of the huge reasons why we wanted to pursue GreenScreen, was to say, look, regrettable substitution, we are paying attention, we are vetting, we are going through the process to say, this has a level of assurance, right? So feel free to go to the next slide here. Thus, GreenScreen Certified Silver. So that was, a badge that we could show to the market. I just wanted to put this as kind of a final slide here to say, right, it's not just about our products going out there and being used, right? It's the point of a compostable package is to deliver food scraps from the landfill to the compost site, right? To get food waste out of the landfill, to reduce methane emissions from getting food waste out of the landfill, and to create a beneficial end product, being compost. So we need to be able to work within that system, right? If we are unable to, either through degradation concerns or contamination from chemistries in the product, that defeats the purpose of that compostable package. It's not about the package, it's about the food. So we do a number of things to work through this, right? We are BPI certified. We do field testing with Compost Manufacturers Alliance, and then now, going through the GreenScreen certification process. We hope that will assure composters that, hey, this product, not only does it bring me more food, it also is safe to be in my pile, right? Which at the end of the day, like I said, that's the point. So, we work very closely with the composting community. I know others in our industry do as well. We're all trying to work together to increase composting access, increase the amount of food waste that gets out of the landfill into the compost site. But to do that successfully, we have to have products that will not jeopardize their business. So this is, it's important for us in terms of toxicology. It's important to us in terms of public health, of course, but, really one of our key stakeholders, right, is the composter. So we have to always keep them in mind from the eco products perspective. Final slide here. So there's my email. Looking forward to your questions, and certainly if you have additional questions, feel free to send me an email. Very excited about this launch. And again, thanks so much to the CEH and CPA team for getting us to where we are today.
Thanks, David. Now we'll hear from Nicole.
Hello, I'm Nicole Whiteman, and it's my pleasure to introduce Natureworks and our perspective on third-party certifications and the need for GreenScreen certified products for food service ware. Natureworks was founded to make bio-based polymers and chemicals based essentially on greenhouse gases. We manufacture NGO biopolymers, those little beads in the fourth picture, and it's our customers who would use them to manufacture a variety of everyday products. The sugar that's needed for our manufacturing process comes from annually renewable plants, which means the carbon in the NGO biopolymer we're manufacturing was greenhouse gases over in Nebraska and Iowa just a few months ago. As an outcome, peer-reviewed LCAs and eco-profiles have shown that compared to widely used food serviceware materials, polystyrene and PET, NGO reduces the carbon footprint by 80% and the need for fossil resources by 50%. Lowering greenhouse gases, reducing reliance on fossil fuels, and designing products for multiple pathways from compostability to mechanical and chemical recycling resonates everywhere. So throughout our history, we've been developing applications and markets globally. And it's that demand globally that's permitting expansion of our manufacturing footprint and the footprint of other PLA manufacturers. And we're very pleased to be well underway to begin construction of our next plant in Thailand. Next slide, please. Our global teams have been working with customers to develop a wide range of applications from NGO. From our focus today, which would be compostable, single-use food serviceware or packaging, to much more durable goods. Next slide, please. When designing for compostability, it's always for a food contact application. The purpose of designing that lightweight container for compostable food serviceware packaging is to enhance the diversion of food waste from landfills. Here in the US, the third largest source of methane emissions is food that's degrading in landfills. By composting instead of landfilling that food waste, this methane source would be curtailed. But compost itself is already a valuable product, even without the greenhouse gas benefits. It builds good soil structure and enhances soil's ability to retain nutrients and moisture. So it's critical that the compostable food serviceware doesn't bring harmful chemicals into the compost product. Next slide, please. The fundamental expectations of food serviceware are increasingly insufficient to characterize what buyers are looking for in their food serviceware, especially when they're considering a change. Buyers would want to avoid regrettable substitutions. So it's only natural that manufacturers of food serviceware materials or food serviceware products would receive a lot of questions. For us, third-party certifications are the way to establish credibility for our safety and sustainability claims. Whether it's to verify compostability or bio-based content, or somebody wondering if that recovered fiber from a coated paper cup would make good paperboard again, we rely on third-party certifications to respond to the inquiries. And we're delighted to have acquired GreenScreen certification at the platinum level for our key food serviceware grades to credibly respond to questions folks have about the safe chemistry. Next slide, please. Our organization works very hard to develop business that fits within the circular economy, which is a framework championed by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation for keeping materials in use and reducing the amount of waste in the world. And that definition of waste is really quite broad. A key tenet of moving towards a circular economy is reducing what's called negative externalities, which of course includes the problem of litter. But it also means that we don't want to keep materials in use at all costs. We want to ensure that the choices have lower carbon footprint and certainly that they do not introduce unsafe chemicals or materials. This is where we see GreenScreen as a critical tool for ensuring that the materials we and others introduce and circulate are evaluated for their effect on people and the environment. As a company leading the introduction of new biomaterials, we're meeting potential buyers at that point where they're considering a change. And we're rightfully challenged on whether or not our products are safe and asked if they contain any chemicals of concern. Next slide, please. This is exactly why we're glad to add GreenScreen Certified to our portfolio of certifications that cover things from feedstocks to product ingredients to what could be done next with that product after it's been used once or twice. The certifications are backing up the claims that we're making about sustainability and safety. One of the things we see as the biomaterials industry develops is that the certifications are becoming increasingly connected. For instance, we certify the bio-based feedstocks are sustainably produced and also separately certify the bio-based content. Another example, as of 2020, to be certified compostable by the Biodegradable Products Institute, the product has to be free of PFAS. And now we're able to demonstrate GreenScreen certified food serviceware materials and products are free of PFAS and thousands of other chemicals of concern. Environmental sustainability is not independent of the effects on human health. And that's why we need programs like GreenScreen to continue growing the impact of sustainable materials on the market. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. So we're gonna now hear from the folks from Advocate Aurora Health.
Hello, thank you, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. I just want to thank you all for inviting us to share our story, and thank you for joining us to give attention to this topic that this topic deserves so that we can give a future to those we care for and those generations that follow. If you want to change to the next slide, please. I'm just going to really quickly introduce our system. Advocate Aurora Health today is the 12th largest not-profit health system in the United States. We operate in the Midwest out of Illinois and Wisconsin. It's a result of a merger of Aurora in Wisconsin and former Advocate Health System in Illinois. Today, we're at 26 hospitals with over 500 sites of care. At the end of the day, our environmental stewardship program exists as an added strategy to support population and public health. It's not going to address the opioid epidemic. We're not going to really touch upon public mental health issues, and we're not even going to touch death with dignity. But there's this shared understanding and commitment that with healthier environments, we're going to have healthy people. You can change to the next slide, please. So our sustainability commitments, goals, and accomplishments evolve, as does our sustainability journey. This slide here highlights results for us for the year 2020. It was a challenging year of operations through a global pandemic, but despite these hurdles, we were able to advance in our work. I highlight 3 goals in red as they are directly tied to addressing additives, chemicals, contributing to the health outcomes we're seeing in our community and patient populations. We're proud of these accomplishments. You know, at the end of the day, 26% of our spend was on animal proteins raised without the therapeutic use of antibiotics, often the exact same antibiotics used to treat patients and illnesses. 62% of chemicals used in our cleaning categories are third-party green certified. This translates into reduced carcinogens and asthmagens impacting our colleagues, patients, and visitors. It has been drastically reduced. We continue to explore the products in the market that will meet our performance and our sustainability needs. And 95% of our spend on furniture is free of added flame retardants, antimicrobials, fluorinated chemicals, less than 1% of weight PVC, and met the latest formaldehyde BIFMA standards. You can change to the next slide, please. So you can see how important environmental stewardship is to us and the need to source and implement healthier, safer products. We recognize that we're able to achieve this level of success It's mostly due to the partnerships with our vendors and manufacturers or distributors or GPOs and outside entities such as Center for Environmental Health and Clean Production Action with their GreenScreen tool. There is value of having certification from our purchaser perspective. It helps us select products with preferred chemistry. It leaves the complexity and the details to the toxicologists and experts. It helps us work with our manufacturers to disclose ingredients under confidentiality. I saw a question earlier about, what is the most challenging aspect of working with the vendors, and it's getting that transparency and clarity around those chemicals in our products. And so it helps collect that information and communicates it to us. And all criteria are transparent and publicly available. Our goal is to reduce and eliminate harmful chemicals from our patient care supply chain so that we reduce the harmful effects in supply chains we're purchasing through, the impact to team members, patients, and visitors when coming to our facilities, and at the end of life, depending how these materials are repurposed, recycled, or as a last resort, ending up in the landfill. I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague, Kathy Kapp, to talk through our journey of transitioning and converting from Styrofoam to healthier and safer products.
Kathy, you need to go off mute.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Monica. And once again, I am Kathy Kapp, Non-Clinical Purchase Services Director with Advocate Aurora Health. Advocate Aurora Health was formed in 2018 when Advocate and Aurora Health merged. The merger was about transforming the delivery of care and reimagining the possibilities of health for the communities we serve. This gave us a unique opportunity to shape our future and better serve patients. It also gave us the opportunity to look internally at standardization opportunities around employee benefits, product and service agreements, supplier diversity, and sustainability efforts. Since the 2018 merger, Advocate Aurora has taken on the purpose of helping people live well. As a healthcare provider, we have a responsibility to safeguard the health of our community by addressing the environmental impact of our operations. As a recognized leader in our industry, we are able to lead by example in the adoption of environmental best practices across our footprint. Next slide, please. I'd like to take a moment to tell you a story about one of our executive leaders. This leader came to one of our facilities to visit his daughter who recently had a baby. While visiting, he noticed a styrofoam cup on her tray. You see, he wasn't too happy when he saw that cup, and his concerns made its way to supply chain with an ask to get rid of styrofoam within our patient care setting. Well, ironically, a year or so later, he came to visit another daughter at one of our facilities, and guess what? There was a styrofoam cup on her tray. We were able to explain to him that due to many other product shortages caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, this project got delayed. While the supply chain team focused on sourcing other products, predominantly PPE, that were necessary to provide patient care while keeping our team members and patients safe. Well, to address the concerns of that senior leader and live our values, we knew we needed to take action to understand what products were being used across our system. We quickly identified that our annual disposal cup usage, and I hate to even say this number, was 8.6 million. Yes, 8.6 million disposable cups were being used across our system, and they comprised of paper, styrofoam, and plastics, and in a variety of sizes. While supply chain and the sustainability team began to collaborate on how to tackle this issue, together we identified key stakeholders to participate on an ad hoc team with an end goal of creating a consistent standard for cups across our system. The team met and determined we would look at vendors that could provide a product that would offer environmental improvement over what was currently being used while meeting our internal needs. The team received a variety of samples from multiple vendors, including compostable and post-consumer recycled paper. We put these cups through vigorous testing, including ice water, hot water. We microwaved them. We left fluid in them overnight to test the performance. A few of the most eco-friendly cups did not meet our performance criteria, while others were just cost prohibitive. Through weekly core team meetings, vendor discussions, and presentations, team member feedback and pilots, we agreed to standardize all non-graduated cups, regardless of the material or size, to a DART 12-ounce paper cup, and all of our graduated cups to a DART custom 16-ounce paper graduated cold cup. We consider this change an incremental improvement in environmental criteria versus a giant leap towards sustainability. Although Styrofoam is not yet eliminated in all of our patient care areas, I am happy to report that our food and nutrition services moved away from Styrofoam products within our retail setting. During our evaluation, we also considered a reusable patient cup, but we quickly came to realize that that was not a battle that we were going to win with infection prevention at this time. We do, though, have a plan to revisit a reusable cup in the future. In addition, today we are also partnering internally to identify existing agreements which would allow us to include sustainability expectations in our RFPs and in our contract templates moving forward. We believe our efforts towards environmental sustainability and wellness are rooted in our purpose to help people live well. Personal health connects to environmental health, and we are committed to supporting personal wellness and preserving a healthy environment for our patients, our team members, and the communities that we are privileged to serve. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. So I think, Ben, you can go to the next slide. We are now at the question and answer portion of the webinar. I think all panelists can turn their cameras on. So thank you all for the great presentations and just sharing that information. We've got quite a few questions in, and several that have actually been answered in the Q&A box, but I think we can maybe start out by just asking, I think a question that's come up a couple times is, how long does the certification take, and once certified, when does the certification expire? So that would be for Sherry.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of how long it takes to certify a product, it really depends on the organization and their knowledge, the applicant and their knowledge of the chemistry in their product and their relationships with their supply chain. So the step that takes the longest, of course, is gathering that information that's led by the applicant with the support of the reviewer if that's desired or needed. Some support is always available, and additional support can be offered. So, you know, from our end, once we have all the information that's required to the thresholds that are required and all of our questions answered, it's 4 to 6 weeks to get through reviewing everything and then going through the certification and licensing process. But the collecting of information, again, you know, widely varies in how long it takes, from weeks to months.
And sorry, did you already address how long?
How long it takes?
Oh,
Yes.
no, so sorry for the how long it before it expires.
Oh, great. Yes. I can't remember the exact date. I'll pull it up. But what we do is we have an expiration date on the standard, which is about 5.5 to 6 years out from when we publish the standard. And that means that then a year prior to that standard expiring, we'll publish another version that will then transition.
Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the next one can be either answered by Sherry, but also maybe the manufacturers, but based on your experience. Oh, actually, this is toward interacting with vendors. What are the biggest challenges to vendor product certification? I think that one is directed to you. Well, actually, David, if you want to.
Yeah, I was going to clarify the question. I'm not sure. In terms of if you're an institution and you're asking your vendors to source you certified product, is that the question? What are the barriers for that?
Let's see, Melanie, do you think you can put in the chat or clarify? Oh, she said yes.
David, I was thinking that the question is asking, and Nicole, like, what are, for you as vendors, as organizations getting products certified, what are the biggest challenges for you? Maybe you could take that one up.
That's helpful. That's helpful. Well, I would say, you know, especially with our experience with Vanguard, right? We were doing something completely new, right? We weren't just substituting something off the shelf, right? We had to go back and say, what chemistry should we be using here, and develop it ourselves with, you know, with chemical experts, right? Who knew paper making and things like that. So that process itself took quite a long time to get there. I think also, right, I mean, cost is definitely a factor, right? For example, the PFAS chemistries, right, have been around for a long time, and they're cheaper too, right? So how do we adjust the supply chain to deal with that? And then I think the institutions see that on the other side, right? Vanguard is more expensive than traditional sugarcane products. And so I think that transition is also a burden, right? So I think certainly for us, it's, you know, has been complexity in finding what is the new change that we want to make. Also, how do we communicate it to the market, right? Which is where GreenScreen certification comes into play. And then also, you know, working through a complicated supply chain and actually getting things transitioned. Hopefully that answers the question somewhat.
I think so. Nicole?
Mark, I would say from my perspective, and that's why I hope in putting my presentation together, I was able to give other manufacturers some comfort level and reasons to go ahead and join in to a program like this, because I think that it's when we are talking about things at the 1 part per million level or 100 parts per million level, these differentiate one manufacturer from another. It's no longer generic, that entire category of materials. It's really specific. And therefore that information, if you were to have hold of it and want to reverse engineer and understand the manufacturing process, it's like a gold mine. And so to feel comfortable sharing that information with a company like Clean Production Action and the other GreenScreen licensed practitioners, that's a really important part. You have to feel comfortable with them, and we do. And I hope that other manufacturers will feel that way as well. And the pie has to be worth doing, right? It has to be a good prize at the end, and that would be that they also are, when you think about CEH and Clean Production Action, that they are well respected in the community, that they have analyzed, they have put together the right program. And so now the buyers are accepting of that information. So to me, that's what I wanted to convey to other manufacturers, that it's well worth it, I think, to be able to speak authentically, credibly about the safety of your products down to that tiny little part per million level. And that, when you say, well, what would be challenging then? Sometimes within our portfolio, we need our supplier to join in and be part of this program as well. And so that I think is, we can understand the whole gamut that everybody goes through. And it's our hope that by the raw material companies coming forward, that it's easier than for the product manufacturers to also come forward. And then of course the buyers have a whole range of products so that they can acquire exactly what they need for their situation.
Thanks, Nicole. It looks like we're also getting questions just about the different tiers of the certification for clarification and maybe what's being tested at what levels, at which tiers. That would be shared.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So the primary differentiator between the different levels is what GreenScreen tools are being used to evaluate each and every chemical in the product for their potential to cause harm. So the silver level of certification requires that GreenScreen list translator be used and no known chemicals of high concern are in the product. The next level is gold. In that case, then GreenScreen for safer chemicals, the comprehensive evaluation that's done by a toxicology firm licensed by Clean Production Action. They do that for each of those chemicals in the product, and no benchmark one chemicals can be in the product. And then the platinum level means that neither benchmark 1 or 2 chemicals can be in the product. So it's only the safest end of the spectrum of chemistry. All of them far exceed regulatory requirements. All of them are much more precautionary than what's required today. In terms of other differences, there are 2 analytical tests that are required only for the gold and platinum level of certification, and 2 or 3, but everything else is largely the same. The restricted substance list is exactly the same. So, and the requirements to be either designed to be compostable and or recyclable is all the same.
Great, thanks. Let's see. There is a question for David about whether all eco products, molded fiber products are Vanguard line.
Yeah, so we launched the Vanguard line. So we do still have as a separate line. So we do still have what we're calling our legacy sugarcane products. So the answer to the question is no. One of the big challenges, right, in terms of the persistence of PFAS is we can't just simply switch out a new chemistry in the existing lines and tools that we were using to produce the legacy sugarcane products. So we have to create a whole new line of everything, right? Whole new tool to press the product, whole new piping to bring the pulp and the chemistry in. So as we're doing that, we're able to increase the types of Vanguard shapes and sizes and things like that, and also the capacity. So we're still working on that to get it all the way up to, you know, as high as it goes based on market need.
Thanks. There's a question asking about how GreenScreen Certified interplays with BPI certification. Are all levels of GreenScreen Certified products required to be BPI certified as well?
Yeah, so the certification requires that the product is designed to be compostable or recyclable, and a way that one can demonstrate that you meet the definition of compostable that's as defined in the standard is through recognized certifications such as BPI. It doesn't have to be BPI, but that is one avenue by which one can demonstrate compostability.
Great, thanks. And there's actually a question about whether you could, have this system in other countries. There's a question about, somebody commented wanting to have this kind of system in Australia.
Yeah, so our certification program is global. We have certifications in various product categories. Since 2017, we started in the apparel sector, and the vast majority of companies getting products certified in that sector are actually in Asia, as well as we've got Europe, we've got North America, we've got most geographies in the world. So the location where the company is based and where the manufacturing sites are based it's all included. It's a global standard.
Great, thanks. Sorry, I'm just sorting through these questions. Yes.
There was a question about the 100 parts per million threshold. And I think that's one that I hear a lot of confusion about. And Sherry, you probably know a lot more than me about how that comes to, but my understanding is it's simply an indicator of the use of PFAS compounds, right? It's not that there's a less than 100 parts per million PFAS in the product. It's that we use that test to tell us whether or not intentional use of PFAS has occurred.
Yeah, so the threshold itself is a pragmatic threshold. We're measuring total fluorine, which means that you would add up all the potential carbon fluorine bonds in the entire product, anything that's in there, and you would get a sense of that. So it's not just measuring a single one of the 9,000 PFAS chemicals. That's why we selected that. But in terms of the threshold, there's been a fair bit of studying on what the threshold would be between intentionally added and then impurities. And so we're making sure that there's no intentionally added PFAS in there. But the other consideration we had is that many companies are already going through the BPI process, and their threshold is set at 100 parts per million. And so while we could have, cut that in half, we would have then required companies to retest their products. And so we thought there was value in staying consistent, and we'll be collecting data over the next, year or two, and we can always lower that threshold. We'd love to see it lower. We also need to acknowledge that there can be other sources of fluorine coming in. So.
This is Mark Rossi of Clean Production Action. Just quickly jump in on this too, is there's no intentionally added PFAS is allowed in the product certification. So then this testing at the 100 part per million level is for any impurities and residuals. So companies have to provide complete chemical ingredient information to get the certification. And then if PFAS is listed as an ingredient, that product would fail the certification. So the testing is only for impurities and residuals of PFAS.
It's really a verification too. So, we get full ingredient disclosure, and we evaluate every single chemical against our restricted substance list and using the hazard tools. But there are certain chemicals and chemical classes that are of particular concern, or that information might not be flowing up and down the supply chain. So we're verifying that what's been shared with us is accurate as well.
So I know we're getting close to the end of time. I wonder if any of the speakers though wanted to say anything that didn't get brought up before we close out. Otherwise, we could just look for one last question before the end of the session.
There was one question that I would love to maybe bring up if we could about a PLA lining versus a PFAS substitute. For moisture, and grease resistance. And I think, from our perspective, right, we wanted a drop-in substitute. So we didn't have to add a PLA lining to the molded fiber products, because that adds cost and complexity, and also sometimes challenges at, facilities that don't accept, fiber items with PLA lining as well. So really, I think they are in the same category. A molded fiber item that also has a PLA lining stands up to, amazing levels of use, right? So it's really the Cadillac when it comes to products. But for us, we wanted to, right, we're always competing on cost, especially with compostable packaging. We're already more expensive than traditional packaging, right? So we have to make sure that we keep things where we are able to. So just there was that one question. I want to clarify that.
I'd like to add something from a purchaser perspective, if that's okay. We haven't
Thanks.
really address this, but I think, for colleagues who are on the call right now, who are interested in taking that first step, I remind you all that, it's better to be consistently imperfect than waiting to be perfect. And sometimes taking that first step is all you need. I noticed there were a couple of questions asking about why we had selected certain materials. And from our perspective, as you know, from Kathy Cap, we have 8.6 million cups. So if you were to do a cost differential between styrofoam to, say, a paper cup to compostable, just the transition to paper, and on average is like 11 cents difference, which is close to maybe $68 million. So we're looking at, trade-offs. We don't want to contribute to increased healthcare in order to pull these products out, but we are making this transition to healthier, safer products. And I think there's an opportunity to leverage GreenScreen to help you with making those decisions. You don't have to be the toxicologist and a scientist, and it'll help you take that decision-making process out of that equation for you, so that you can really start to then focus on making the internal business case and working with your colleagues and partners internally.
Thank you for that, Monica. I know we just hit the top of the hour.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Sure.
There are a number of questions that were unanswered, and I just want to say a lot of the questions can be found in the standard document itself, which is available, freely available, completely transparent online on our website. So just want to encourage folks to look there as well. And happy to take questions after this as well. Contact me directly.
Thank you for that. Yes, thanks. We hope to follow up and have some frequently asked questions on our site, hopefully sometime in the next couple weeks. And I just want to thank all the panelists again. This is a great session, great discussion, and we look forward to being in touch with all of you as this certification evolves. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.